Hey,
Everybody, I'm
woo!
Sean McCoy.
I'm
This is
Alan
Alan
Girding.
Girding. We're Tuesday Night Games. Yeah. Welcome to our stream. Thank you all so much for showing up. Thank you all so much for backing, for checking out Mothership Month. We are sitting here at $131,000 for today so far, 1,647 backers. And for Mothership Month, overall, we are at $345,000 raised, 6,278 backers, and 19 out of 21 projects funded. That is incredible. So we cannot say thank you enough. We're excited to talk to all of you, answer your questions, and just poke around a bit at some of the different projects and see what is what. So let's see here. I'm going to dive right into some of these questions while we sort of find our way around a bit. Daniel Skov Madsen says, when will Wages of Sin be shipping? Don't see anything on BackerKit. I think we maybe buried it in the FAQ, but we're talking about Q2 2025. So that's not January, February, March, but April, May, June. Basically, we've got the manuscript written. It's being handed over to editing. Graphic design has like a template laid out. The art is like 80-90% done. So we're hoping to finish all the files in November, December, send something to backers in January for like a final look, get it to the printer over in February, along with like Mega Damage and all the other like add-ons and that sort of stuff, so that they can start shipping freight to us in March. And then we've got April, May, June to sort of start fulfillment and do fulfillment like that. Let's see here.
Never Throw a Cat asks, can you share any information on the visual style of Wages of Sin?
Yeah, I would love to do that. So Wages of Sin, we're taking sort of a brutalist approach to this book. And when I say that, what I mean is like we wanted to reveal the materials. And when I talk about the materials of a role-playing game book, I'm specifically speaking about the graphic design and the graphic design elements. So you are going to see a lot of the grid that all the columns and all the text flow on exposed and actually highlighted on the page. You're going to see metadata for the images that are in the book on the page as captions. So like the dimensions of an image, the file name of an image, even the like title page of the book has the file name of the file we're using inside the book. And this was to sort of echo the main theme of the book, which is the wages of sin. So if you know that Bible verse, it's the wages of sin is death. But when you're a bounty hunter, death really is, like the wages of sin really is your job, and death is your job. And so we wanted to compound that by, since we have these 100 bounties, we have all these people, by like putting them into a strict grid and turning them into numbers with this metadata. So we really wanted to go deep on this like trapped feeling for the book. It's something very stark and, like I said, brutalist, where we're also just sort of showing our work too. Mothership has a decent reputation for its graphic design, and I sort of wanted to reveal like a peek behind the curtain. These are how many columns we're using. These are the fonts we're using. These are the colors we're using. This is how big the images we're using. So there's a lot of things we're trying to accomplish at once. But also because it's a huge book, we want it to be very organized. There's a lot of templating involved with how the bounties operate, what information you need where, what the sidebars are, what the footers are. And we really wanted to make the most use of that, have it have that kind of technical manual feel. So that's what we're going for with the visual design for Wages of Sin. And we picked an artist, Tyler Garlando, who has a style that fits in. He's got a really good mix between like organic and digital that's got like a nice tension to it that I think will work really well for Wages of Sin.
Danny and Evil Lawn have a similar question. Any chances of minis or more cardboard minis, meeples, maybe even for each of the modules? And what about for the ships? We got some miniature hungry people here.
Alan, are you a minis guy in your campaigns?
Not at all. I am not a minis guy. I am totally theater of the mind. So you're barking up the wrong tree when it comes to me. Don't get me wrong. Back in the day, I had so many minis in my basement right now beneath my feet. I have probably close to 2,000 minis. Like I have so many minis all packed away, not being used because I switched into the theater of the mind type of thing. So no,
Are you like a prop
I'm not
guy?
a
Do you do costumes?
Yeah, you know what? It's good question. I am a blasphemer in a lot of ways because I really like virtual meetings. So when I run games, I love to run them online for a couple of reasons. Don't get me wrong, I love the communion of seeing people face to face. But when it's virtual, then I can bring in pictures and costumes and all sorts of theater. So when I say theater of the mind, I also mean the theater of acting and performing and that kind of thing when I do online. But I do the same when it's on the table. So yeah, I'm all about that. I love reference pictures if you're talking to someone. So miniatures could totally fly as reference, but when it comes to battle grid, I'm really opposed to battle grid combat. I'm definitely more theater of the mind. What about you?
I'm kind of maximalist in that like I like toys and blocks and all that sort of stuff, but I haven't really since COVID had the opportunity to let that sort of mini flag fly a little bit. But it is something I want to get into at some point in the future. Um, we have a big alien invasion campaign setting that we've been working on for Mothership for a while, and I think it would be interesting to bring in this like Starship Troopers war gaming aspect to it that could see a lot of minis. And then purely from like a product standpoint, like minis are a great product. They're a great way to sell things. One of our compromises has been those cardstock pawns that we included with the core set. And I do think a lot of backers want to see that type of thing in the future. And so we're looking for ways to include those that make sense, particularly with this move into hardcover books, whether that's like slip cases that contain them, what's the storage like for them, or do we just release them sort of like Pathfinder did as those bestiary boxes, where we just release uh, more tokens, more cardboard pawns, cardstock pawns as a product in and of themselves. So I think it remains to be seen where the market goes, where the customers go, because one of the great things about RPGs is there's like every type of player out there. For every minis guy, there's a cardstock pawn or these new plastic pawns, the flat ones that you can slip into notebooks. I think those are really
Mm-hmm.
cool too. And then I'm actually going to dig something out of my closet right here, real quick, because a fan sent this to me um, just recently, and it is so amazing. If I can find it, because I had to clean up
Oh,
to go on
man.
stream. Um, there's no way.
Danny
There's no
Gable
way I'm
saying
gonna
that
find
he
it.
just wants to paint some spaceships, damn it. But as far as first party spaceship minis coming out from us, nothing yet in the works. So may have to wait
I
a little
think
bit
the
longer for
closest
that,
thing
Danny.
I think the closest thing we're going to see is all of our ships are designed in Blender in 3D, and so we had a fan reverse engineer the Raider, and they sent me a like a 1/366 scale, like an X-wing scale mini of the Raider from Mothership, and it's like this long. It's huge, and it
Is
was
that what you
super
just went
sweet.
to
It was
go
a
get
super
but failed
thoughtful
to
gift.
find?
Yeah, but I couldn't find the box. Yeah, I'll take a look for it later if we have a break.
I get it,
Um,
man. Yeah.
it's really cool. But I've thought about dipping our toes in and creating STL files or 3D print files for people of the Shipbreakers Toolkit ships, so that people could start experimenting with that. And then if we see it and we see that like there's a lot of desire there, it wouldn't be crazy to release like a ship pack, or maybe something that's more in Alan and my wheelhouse is as the community grows, building board games specifically around certain types of play, whether that's space trekkers or whatever, and then building minis into a board game that you can then use for your Mothership campaign. That's like somewhere we could possibly go, but it's definitely not on the near horizon. That's just the kind of conversations that we have around this sort of stuff.
Do you want more questions? Because we got plenty coming in.
Yeah. Will you question guide for us for a little bit?
You got it. No problem. You do your thing, and I'll ask these questions. Let me see if I can get the name here because I want to give credit where credit's due. Taliesin Crosby asked, "What is your most anticipated third party for Mothership Month?" Third party publisher. That's, in my opinion, already. I'm going to say that's like saying who's your favorite child. That's really rough for us to pick a singular favorite. I know that I haven't done a deep dive on all of them yet, but I'm going to spoil myself and back them all. I've already backed 3, so I'm just going to keep doing it. But
The
I'm
two that I
spoiling.
want to focus on right now are PK49 and Survivors of the Core Wars. These are the two that haven't funded yet, and I think are kind of hidden gems. PK49, if you don't know, is by Lone Archivist, who did What We Give to Alien Gods, In Other Waters Tidebreak, Primeval, and just always makes very, very gorgeous books. This book has a cool acid graphics kind of layout and graphic design. I think his stuff is always really high quality. And so I'd love to hear more from him about like the book and about see some more concept art coming out, because I think as he shares that, people get more hyped for it, and I think it's amazing. And then Survivors of the Core Wars by our editor Jarrett Crater and a longtime friend Christian Kessler, and I think some other people on it, are these big 4x6-inch NPC cards, and it's the only non-book in the collection right now. And I think it's delving into a territory that I'd like to see more people get into as third-party publishers, which is accessories and tools that you can use at your table to make a warden's life easier. So that's something else I'm really excited about, because I want to see more third-party publishers take a risk in that scenario. So go to the collection, look at the flare board at the top with all the cool little stickers. Lone Archivist from PK49 designed all of those stickers, which are also, we're going to reveal in the supply pods that I need to update tonight. Those are going to be part of the supply pods. We're going to get full, nice, foily looking stickers for each of those projects. And sort by projects that haven't funded yet, and you'll find both of them. And I think they both are amazing. I'm looking forward to both of them.
I'm going to combine a couple questions into one question between Kenneth and Ryan. Want to know if there will be potentially a new Warden screen or any chance of getting clean, full-page artwork from the modules, character maps, etc. So full artwork. So like character art.
Are we thinking
maps.
for like VTTs? Are these just like digital assets? I think that's something we could talk about in the future for sure. I'm barreling down. If you've backed the 1E Kickstarter campaign, and I'm sorry that we haven't updated it in a while. We've been working so hard on this stuff and getting these stretch goals done. But you might have seen in the last couple of days, I've been knocking out some of those stretch goals, like the audio horrors or the distress signals. I'm about to send out the settlement rumors, but I'm putting together a Warden asset pack right now. And it's got not only the Warden screen that we promised, which we've already released, in character sheets, but it's got flyers and posters that you can hang up at your table. And I'm adding in a couple of things like a planet sheet that you can cut out and put into your campaign notebook, and a system sheet you can cut out and put in your campaign notebook. And maybe even like a starter map, again, for you to like jumpstart building your own system, and again, cut out and put into your campaign notebook. But I do think digital asset packs for VTTs or people who are running games digitally would be a helpful thing. And for streamers as well, that's something we want to talk about later on in the month, is ways that we're going to help actual plays with more assets and logos and that sort of thing. And even with more functionality on the Mothership companion app, so that it makes streaming really beautiful, really easy, and really fun.
Never Throw a Cat has another question. It's directed towards me, and it asks, how goes the work on Father Fog? Great. I'm so excited about Father Fog. But this isn't about Father Fog. Another question that was directed to me shortly after that. If, let me see, Lion R Times 333 asked, if I die while playing Werewolf in the Dark, will I attend his funeral? Probably not, because we don't know each other in person, but I will say you're going to want to go ahead and make sure Werewolf in the Dark is in your will, so that if and when you do die while playing Werewolf in the Dark, someone else gets the love of Werewolf in the Dark. I've yet to play a game where someone doesn't potentially or actually get injured, and I probably shouldn't be saying that in live stream, but it's true. So play with caution. We say that very explicitly in the rules. You're playing something in the dark. We're getting a lot of congrats. Here's a question from Jack Van Doom for you, Sean. Is Wages of Sin leaning away from the horror aspect of Mothership?
That's a great question. And this is a balance that we're always talking about, because it's a sci-fi horror game, and where's the sci-fi and where's the horror? We've taken the core of this book is 100 bounties, right? And we decided very early on that we didn't want this to just be a cops and robbers campaign where it's just like, here's 100 bad people for you to go shoot at. because that is not super interesting from a Mothership perspective. So we've peppered in, I don't know the exact percentages, but we set aside a percentage of like 20% this, 10% this, of one, bounties where you show up and it's just horror, where you show up to do your normal job and something's gone terribly wrong. Something's escaped, something has killed everyone. The situation is not what it seems. Because again, we wanted to emphasize that horror aspect. However, if they were 100 horror scenarios, you would sort of lose that aspect because everything the players do is constantly going like, okay, what's the crazy ghost monster AI android apocalypse thing this week, right? And we didn't want that. We wanted stressful, difficult, potentially lethal scenarios like bounty hunting that have the potential to turn and you don't know when. Additionally, we wanted to put in a lot of bounties where it wasn't really clear who the good guy or bad guy was, or it was very clear that the person you're chasing was innocent and they had just run afoul of some executive or C-level or corporation or whatever. And again, put the players back in the decision-making mode that I think RPGs do so well, is like ask you these what if questions rather than in the sort of video game mode of like, here's 100 targets, go pepper them full of lead. So no, we have not leaned away from horror at all. It is not like the most horrific module in the world, but we do have that in there. And they are, I think, going to be marked. We're making a big use of indexes in the back of the book so that we can reorganize the bounties and say like, hey, here's one-line descriptions of each of them, or hey, here are some that are more horror themed or whatever. I need to turn off my laptop's ability to turn on the screensaver. But yeah, so no, we're not stepping away from it at all.
I think you and I, we've totally spent so many evenings talking about the essence of horror. We talked about it a lot when we were doing the podcast, and it's a topic I feel I can always return back to because I really feel that it's an art form, and part of that art is tension and release, tension and release. So while there isn't an overt horror as far as body disfiguration horror, any Cronenberg horror innately and egregiously upfront with Wages of Sin, I think there's a lot of horror to be said about actual tension and suspense. In fact, some of my favorite horror movies are not supernatural in the slightest. They are completely believable. Like I'm thinking of like Vacancy, where someone is watching a video and they realize it's the video of the room that they're staying in and the people are getting murdered and then the lights go out. Something like that, I think, speaks to what Wages of Sin can really provide, this atmosphere of the air of tension before you get into the meat grinder of it. But that doesn't mean you can't mix in some other actual supernatural or unearthly horrors in there. It's so ripe. I love it. And when I was going through the bounties and the bounty hunters, the mind just keeps turning. And this really is a toolkit for inspiration of how you could transform this into something totally horrific and totally scary. Just, I mean, think about like It Follows, where something is just constantly following you. Imagine having one of these horrific bounty hunters after you. It's incredible. You want another question,
That's a
Sean?
big thing. Yeah, we really want to emphasize. Yeah, let me. I saw a few that I just want to rocket through real quick.
You got it.
Is Orphans an official TKG module? What is it exactly? It is an official TKG module. It's a zine module. It was offered as a free download for backers of the 1E Kickstarter for being late. We haven't fulfilled it yet. We're just finishing up graphic design. Life got in the way a little bit, but it's going to be going to editing pretty soon here. The art's all finished. It looks beautiful. So it'll be offered for print for the first time ever during this campaign. Roll20 Mothership support is lacking. As a new warden, what's the best resource to purchase, utilize within Roll20? We did Roll20 for 0E, and it was helpful for some people, but it didn't blow us out of the water. And so we looked for a developer for Roll20, and we haven't found one that we've loved. Meanwhile, as you guys will see this month, we're adding VTT functionality to the Mothership companion app that doesn't require a subscription. And so we've spent a lot more of our money developing the Mothership app rather than searching for a Roll20 developer. There's a lot of VTTs out there, Roll20, Foundry, Roll app, and they all have sort of different requirements. And that's just not where we as a company, like, make our money. We make our money making good books and good games. And so we've decided, like, in this next building period, to focus as much on that as possible and worry a little bit less about the 10%, 5% that we could make on good VTT tools outside of our app. Um, do you have a good question for us, Alan? Oh, here was the other one I wanted to answer. Have you considered a sort of adventures league sort of thing? And we have, and we're calling it Warden's Club. We're not ready to fully announce it yet, but we're talking. Luke's writing up a scenario for it. We're going to do something very similar to what Goodman Games does, where you run a game in a public space. You sign up online, you create an event, people can go, and you can earn swag, and you can level up by running like more games per year, starting with like a patch, pins, tearaway sheets, stationary type stuff, as well as a seasonal adventure, like a free adventure to run, a one-shot for your tables. They won't be like zines; they'll be like very simple. They'll be good adventures. They just won't have a ton of layout and product design to them, so that we can keep our focus on our bigger projects. But it is something that we're really excited about and we're working towards.
Does Wages of Sin have any expansion on shore leave or downtime? Things to do between jobs? I mean, I can kind of answer that in an indirect way. Yes and no. No, not specifically for shore leave mechanics and downtime mechanics. But what are we talking about here? We're talking about the stuff that can totally happen between campaigns and can lead into so much more. One of my favorite things when I run Mothership or any role playing game is any type of encounter, whether it be planned or random, that plants that seed in players' minds that leads to some type of thread that later just grows and expands into its own campaign focus. So I know that's kind of a backhanded way to answer that question, but directly, no. Indirectly, absolutely. How did that sound, Sean? Did I sound good or sound foolish?
No, yeah, we're so shore leave is definitely something that we want to take a good look at and like expand as time goes on. The big stretch goal that we're planning here is to introduce an entire prison complex called the ODC, with like the rules for that, what it would be like to start inside it, break out, break in to complete certain bounties, that sort of thing. Again, not shore leave, but it is something we want to take a deeper look at in the future because I think people want more guidance on what that looks like. And that's definitely something we can offer. I see Mr. Amoff 1991 says, is there plans for having cybernetics similar to body sculpting like in Cyberpunk 2020 slash Red? We do have cyber mods in A Pound of Flesh, if you check that out. And we will be expanding on that when we release Null Hack, our cyberpunk setting slash hack of Mothership, TBD in the future. JP Couvert, who I'm a huge fan of, amazing designer, illustrator, great YouTube channel. You should all check him out. Asks a question that's in the weeds, and I like these kinds of questions. Are you guys doing anything to prepare for possible tariffs? This is a great question because these were also threatened the last time the Trump administration was in power. And we were talking to our manufacturers and saying, hey, what do you think? And one, a lot of people work on this problem from both sides. Like manufacturers in other countries also know that this stuff is potentially coming. There's a lot of uncertainty in the air, but they do things like they manufacture some of their goods in one country, they ship them to another country, they assemble them in the United States. The devil's really in the details with this kind of stuff. So one, we're going to try and be flexible. Our books are printed in Lithuania right now. Some of our board game stuff is printed in China. I think blanket tariffs are a bad idea short term for the country and possibly a bad idea long term. But I think as a business, we have to stay flexible. Now, what's great about Mothership is we built our audience on zines, which are very cost effective to produce in the United States. So if we had to change our business model amidst a global or national in the United States trade war or something like that, we're guessing that a lot of other companies will too. And so we will pivot either to more PDF stuff or we'll pivot to more zine-based stuff, or we'll work with manufacturers in other countries. So we're aware of it. We've prepared for it before. It didn't happen last time. Maybe it will this time. But I think like one of the great things about being a game designer is that we are never really tied down to one model here. And we can move to cards, we can move to board games or whatever. And Al and I are both like people who love travel, we love international stuff, we love meeting new people. We will find partners somewhere, whether that's in the US or in Mexico or in Canada or any other country where tariffs aren't being levied. We will find a way to make it happen because we love making games. And we love bringing them to you guys. So that's basically our approach. Alan, is there anything you have to add to that about just sort of economic uncertainty?
I think you nailed it. I don't have the crystal ball. I don't know exactly what our future holds, but I do know our love for gaming and our love for bringing it to everybody, and we will adapt. So whatever it takes, we'll pivot when we need to pivot. We'll stand firm when we need to stand firm, and we'll try our best to make all the smart decisions we can to keep this party train running as long as we can because we love it.
So yeah, a couple other things. Somebody was asking here, I just lost their name, if Wages of Sin includes campaign tools for running a bounty hunter campaign. Explicitly,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
The real pitch we want to sell people on is that even if you're not running a bounty hunter campaign, this is a good purchase for you. In fact, I think it's going to stand next to the Warden's Guide as the most important thing you want to have on your table as a warden, because these 100 bounties are not just targets. They're also people that you might hire. One of your contractors that you thought was just a teamster, you thought was just a Marine, actually has a bounty on their head. And it's one of these scenarios. Or your boss or your client or whatever is one that has one of these bounties on your head. Or one of these bounties that's an awful, pirate queen or whatever is after you. So we want to say you're taking this not just to run a bounty hunter campaign, but to give your world more depth and more reactivity so that it's much more like a sandbox. There's a lot more going on. And also, the vast majority of these are one shots so that the warden can open it up, take the Warden's Guide, take the tools that are given to you for the scenario. They're not fully written out scenarios with keys and stuff like that, but take that and then with the tools of the Warden's Guide, build a session for tonight. That's the real goal.
Here's
so
a tee up
there's
for you.
Hit me.
This one's really good. Kenneth says, I would love to see some cards made for Mothership. I think that's a great segue to brag.
Yes.
The
So if
pod.
you like cards for Mothership, yeah. So basically, we have this thing we're trying out for Mothership Month called supply pods. You unlock a supply pod by backing 5 or more projects, right? And you get a new supply pod with every 5 projects that fund, not that you back, but that fund. We're at 20 now. I think the last one requires all projects to be funded. So we just need to get that last project over the finish line, and everybody will be getting 4 supply pods. So I can say what there are right now because we're so close. Every supply pod is going to come with a booster pack of cards. Think of like a Magic the Gathering pack of cards with, I think, 13 cards in it. And each of those is going to have a character on it. And it's a fully formed character that you can use either as a pre-gen PC or as an NPC. So it's got all their stats on it, their gear, their loadout, all that sort of stuff. We're also adding foils into the packs. So the packs will be standard. They'll have the same 13 characters no matter what. So there's not like random, like I got 2 Jims and I got no Susies, right? You get the same characters, but some of them are going to be foil and holographic and some aren't, just to create a little bit of fun and excitement for opening those packs. If Mothership Month is successful, which it looks like it is, this is a tradition we're going to try and continue next time as well, so that you can have this ever-expanding deck of NPCs/PCs. This time, it's all going to be themed around criminals, cops, and robbers, that kind of thing. But in the future, it might all be explorers and teamsters and trade workers and that kind of stuff. Or it might be all androids or scientists. So that you have this ever-expanding deck of NPCs that you can pull from. Additionally, I think we're going to want to get into loadout cards pretty soon, where you have a deck of loadouts that say what your equipment is, every piece of equipment, what the rules are for that. So again, just pick up and play. You can shuffle up 2 decks and hand out a character to everybody and hand out a loadout to everybody. That's the kind of thing I think we want to get into when we talk about making the game like quicker and easier to run for people.
This is a really interesting question from Taliesin Crosby. Sean, you said that you love toys. What are some non-book physical products you would love to produce in the future? Just sky's the limit, Sean. Don't think about limitations. Just if we had it in us, what would you like? Because this is a fun question for me to hear the answer from you.
There is a great company called Knights of the Slice. Okay. and they are an indie toy maker company. They make what are called Glyos figures. Glyos is a universal peg that you could put onto action figures, right? So you could pop off their heads and arms and swap them out. So similar to the OSR to indie RPGs, there's a ton of these indie toy makers out there making Glyos compatible. Think Lego, making these Glyos compatible figures, and you could pop off their limbs and make some. Some are more in the mold of like He-Man, some are more in the mold of like GI Joe, some are more in the mold of like battle bots and all that sort of stuff. And I was a huge fan of theirs. Am a huge fan of theirs, but I thought it would be cool to make like some limited edition action figures for Mothership. Um, Everybody always wants a Gaunt from Dead Planet plushie. I think that would be fun. We have designs for a Mothership anime body pillow that we made as a joke, but I've always wanted to put that out. We also have designs for Mothership Death Cup, which I think a lot of people want. We just haven't found the right time to release. So there's a lot going on there, as well as like going upwards. We would love to get into video game, comics, fiction, film, television. We see a bright future ahead for Mothership and all this sort of stuff. So, um, my background's in film. Alan was an actor. He's got a lot of film in his background. There's a lot of places we want to take Mothership. We want to always stay true to the game itself. That's what we're the love is. Um, but I think there's a lot of places we could take this. I mean, I love the Warhammer books. There's a lot of really good Warhammer novels. I read a ton of those as a kid, and I've read some recently too. We have a lot of great writers. We have contacts with a lot of great writers, and that's partly what Mega Damage is going to highlight is the comics and the short fiction and the articles that we love from writers that we love working with and creators we love working with, and to sort of dip our toes in that water and see, one, do you all have an appetite for this? If we were to create Mothership comics like long term, would there be a demand for that? And the same goes for short fiction, and the same also goes for like our investigative stuff and our interviews. Like, where is our audience? And one other aside for Mega Damage, there's a real thing in the industry, as you guys are all going to experience now with Mothership Month, where you get a lot of RPG books, but you don't have time to run them all. So you read through them and you cull them for ideas. I think that's an amazing thing. What Mega Damage allows you to do is not be worried if you're going to run this book, right? You can just read it to get ideas from, and you don't have to constantly be thinking about, am I ever going to get this adventure to the table? And that's another way, like selfish as a company, for us to get another SKU, another product out there to service you guys and to give you the stuff that you sort of want without the added pressure of, like, if we released 4 mainline 200-page Mothership books a year, that's a ton. That's a ton of content for you to work through. So we want to find ways to support you and give you the sort of stuff that you want, and introduce you to new writers and new creators without it always having to be tied to, and you got to run this year or you wasted your money.
There's a couple of logistical questions. In order to get the supply pods, is it going to be available anywhere else besides the Mothership Month campaign? And I think you and I talked about this, Sean. So if I'm stepping out of line, because I believe our decision was no, you can only get it through Mothership Month. We wanted that to be a very hot exclusive. Correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's an incentive to do it now, because what our creators need now is they need the intention and the funds now to fund their projects, to make these things a reality, to take the pressure off of them about whether they're going to be able to make their print run or not. That's the hard part about incentives. Sometimes you'll miss out, and I'm sure there'll be people who buy some or sell some on the secondary market will be doing products in this flavor. I'm sure, but these are specifically Mothership Month incentives for backing 5 or more projects, because we want to spread the love around. And there's a lot of people who are not gonna, you know what I mean? We want to raise the profile of the entire third party community and not just soak it in for ourselves. We knew we'd be like the 500-pound gorilla in the room, and we wanted to find a way to make sure that like we could spread that success out to our creators. I've had third party creators put down payments on houses, move out of their current living situation and find a place on their own, quit their jobs because of the money they made from third party Mothership publishing, which we take very, very seriously. And so at every turn, we try really hard to make it so that our third party publishers can have this as a real source of income, either as a full time job or as a hobby, or it's just like extra money to pay some bills. And so that's why those incentives we've locked in is to really encourage people to, like, hey, spread out, look around, find projects that need some love. and we want to give you some cool rewards as a result.
There are some questions about the difference between the Wages of Sin's standard and the deluxe, and what's the best way to get the hands on the deluxe.
So yeah, they're the same in terms of content. There's no added content in one or the other, and internally the pages are going to be the same, right? It a lot depends on your taste and the way you sort of collect books. So the deluxe set, the deluxe copy is going to have like one or two creature comforts. It's going to have a ribbon bookmark, maybe two ribbon bookmarks. It's a 200-page book with a lot of indices, so it might have two ribbon bookmarks. It's going to be this nice black cloth binding with inset gold foil. But importantly, we're going to maintain that style for all the deluxe hardcovers we do of Mothership, which we intend to do for all of them. And so it's really for that person who wants a set of books that look really nice, volume one, volume two, volume three, on the shelf that all go together, that look very sleek right next to each other, right? That's the premium for that. And it's the one that's more likely to not get reprinted if there's like an issue later on down the road because it's deluxe, right? We're not saying it's limited edition, but it's the one that's more likely to be limited in the event that we have to keep one in print. The standard version, it's still going to be an 8x10 high quality hardcover book. It's going to have that beautiful cover art, full color cover art by Tyler Garlando. It's not going to have the ribbon bookmarks, I don't believe. Um, but otherwise the content's going to be the same, right? And so if you're not like that collector and you're just, you want to pick up a book here or there and see how it goes, definitely there's nothing wrong with standard at all. It's beautiful, and I've had a lot of people who love that cover art, and I do as well. And eventually we're going to remaster Dead Planet, A Pound of Flesh, Gradient Descent, Another Bug Hunt, and do those in hardcovers with the deluxe version as well. And some of them have amazing covers as well that I don't want to say goodbye to. So it's really about a preference thing. And it's another way to support us sort of at a higher tier, or if you're in a higher tax bracket, and that's, the way you value games is different than other people.
Here's a question from George. Is it possible to get extra supply drops? Because George wants to share them, not just for himself, but gives them to his players. And my answer, from my understanding right now, because a lot of this is live, this is the first Mothership month. We're learning as we go. We've been planning this for a while, but you can only plan for so much, as any good GM/warden knows. But here's the good news. I think the answer is no, but you can get the supply drops from just backing 5 projects. It's not that you have to back all 21, but 5. And so if your friends want to back some of the other ones that you didn't back, that's a good way to share the love and get more bang for everyone's buck. But as far as like, hey, can I get 3 or 4 of those? Right now, we don't have plans. What do you think, Sean?
That's a great question. I think it's something we'd have to talk to a little bit more because there's logistic issues on the end too. Like, how do we distribute those? How do we, if we make them available for purchase for some people, that loses the exclusivity. How do we lock it into only people who already backed 5? I think it's probably a no, but it's something I'll put on our list to investigate a little bit further.
Yeah. If someone backs 10 projects, will they get 2 supply pods? Oh,
no,
so
not
that's the
right now.
response to that.
That's something we would look into, but yeah, that's not the deal as it currently stands. It's such a small percentage of people that it might just be fine and worth it, but we'd have to check and see, like, logistically, if there's an easy way to segment out those backers and to make sure that we can fulfill them sort of accurately. But I'll put it down on my question list. Can we
Another question
back
about the
more?
supply pods.
Oh yeah.
Are they just the NPC cards, or do they include more than just the card, Sean? And
Oh
how
my
dare I
God.
say just the
Yes.
cards?
So, okay.
Yes.
Because we've unlocked so many, we can go through. They're all going to include 1 pack each, right? So you should be getting a full deck of cards basically by the end. 13, 13, 13, and 13. It'll depend on what the final sheet size is. We're still working with the manufacturers, but
What do you mean
if you're
by
in board
13,
games, you
13,
maybe don't
13,
know.
13?
Each booster pack will contain 13 cards, which is basically a suit of cards. So 4 packs, 4 suits, that's a deck of cards, right? But if you don't know, board game manufacturers produce decks of cards on a sheet, on a single sheet, and they cut them out, right? And so the final number, sometimes there's 55 cards on a sheet, 54, 56. We'll find out what the final sheet size is so we don't lose any cards. And we'll divide that up in the packs that way. Supply pod 1 pack, that's it. Supply pod 2 comes with another pack, and it comes with 5 like foil deluxe stickers of the flare board that you'll see there of the projects. Supply pod 3 comes with another pack, more stickers, and a Mothership pin, a little Mothership month pin with that little M logo with the 24. We're doing a pin. And supply pod 4 comes with the 4th pack of cards, the final round of stickers, and a pamphlet module by Ian Newsom from Hull Breach and Meat Grinder and Breach of Contract and all these other amazing products. He wrote a pamphlet module called Shadow of a Doubt, which is sort of a reverse murder mystery. You're stuck on a space elevator for a few days. You're not stuck, you're traveling on it. And you've been given a mission to murder one of the people on it, kind of like in Hitman, but you have to make it look like a total accident. So you've got to talk to all these people. It's very weird. It's got sort of a Twin Peaksy vibe. But he was so excited about Mothership Month and wanted to contribute to a stretch goal in some way because the third-party community has been huge to him, and he's been a huge part of that. And he wasn't going to be able to do anything for this one, but he wanted to contribute in some way. So we've got that pamphlet there. And then once everything's done, Alan and I are talking about what would it look like? Would we have another hidden goal for halfway through the campaign for a total pledge amount for all campaigns? So there may be still more in the supply pods, but we're going to have to wait and see.
The planning for this in of itself is almost a press your luck game, because we have to ask ourselves, okay, what do we reward people with when they back in, when the projects start funding, and what is worth people's time? And what happens if they fund all in day one and blow it out of the water, which is happening? Do we just incentivize, or do we come up with more? So we're trying our best to keep up with demand and keep it as interesting as possible. But this is a really interesting project because it's not just Tuesday Night Games, it's third-party publishers, which I think is a great segue into another question, because this is a great opportunity. Even though you're a broken record about this, what if someone's out there and they want to get into third-party publishing? Maybe they even want to try to get into Mothership Month next year. Sean, please take it away and give the quick spiel.
Yeah. We have a third-party license. You can go into our website. I think it's in the help section. And you can get the license. And basically, we're just looking for bigoted content. That's really all we're looking for. You email your draft to 3pp@tuesdaynightgames.com. And Daniel, our third-party coordinator, will review the draft, send you back any feedback, and you're off to the races. You have a little logo that you put on the books. We buy at wholesale for our store. We even distribute to other retailers, which is great. You can run a Kickstarter, all that sort of stuff. And it's really great. Next year, Backer gets added functionality to where when we do Mothership Month, we can announce it way earlier and you can sign up. The rules for this one were you had to be on theme, you had to offer a free 48-hour freebie, and you had to offer a freebie if all projects fund. So if you didn't know that, every project that you're part of, if you back today, you're getting an extra freebie from all those projects. And if all the projects fund, you're getting an extra freebie from all the projects. So there's a lot coming your way with all these campaigns. We put them all in a separate Discord server where they could troubleshoot problems and stuff like that. But next year, we're hoping to go a step further and do like a full-fledged virtual con where we will be doing workshops with our creators, more announcements, more games virtually online, as well as in the real world, more events, that kind of stuff. But if you just want to get involved, hop on the Discord server, grab the license, start writing something up, and start playing. We really believe in this community. And, we believe this is the way that Mothership sort of outlasts us in the long run, is by having this wide community that helped not just Alan and I funnel money towards Tuesday Night Games, but helped a lot of people improve their lives.
Sean, another question. Are we going to share any official materials from the Mega Damage magazine or Wages of Sin on this stream that we're doing right now?
No, we're not. But we'll put together a little sample pack, and we'll talk about doing like a preview pretty soon here. A lot of Mega Damage articles are in layout right now, and they're with the graphic designer, so I don't have them in front of me. We do have Wages, but we're tightening things up with the editor. There's a couple previews on the website, but we need a little bit more. But yeah, let's put something together so we can walk through like an example bounty in the bounty hunters, and you can sort of see what's going on because it's really kind of exciting. Why don't I, if I navigate away, do I cut off the stream or does it just look like I'm looking at stuff? Um,
You
Here's
look
some of
great.
the
We can still
articles
see
we've got
you.
going on. So we've got an awesome comic by an author named Jake Butcher called Charon. It's about this android and this guy going off to get like ambergris in space. It's got a little psychedelic, and it's even got Prospero's Dream makes a sort of a cameo in it. We've got a horror review called The Greatest Satanic Sci-Fi Novel You've Never Read. And this is by Sean McTiernan, who is a podcaster that I love. He does Live at the Death Factory. He's doing SF Ultra about sci-fi stuff, and this is an article about James Blish's, I think it's called Black Easter, and then he did a little listicle for us about more sci-fi horror novels that you need to read. We've got Scout Tafoya is this reviewer on RogerEbert.com. He has this amazing series called The Unloved, which if you've ever wondered like Alien 3 is it underrated, overrated, whatever, watch his video on Alien 3 on The Unloved. It totally turned me around on that movie, and I've always just loved his voice. So he wrote this great article about made-for-TV movies that were sci-fi and horror in like the 70s, stuff that he used to watch with his dad. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got like 7 short stories. We've got an interview with Adrian Tchaikovsky, the sci-fi author who did Children of Time, and an interview with Philip Eisner, the screenwriter of Event Horizon. A friend of mine, Nick Grant, is a very talented up-and-coming screenwriter, lives in LA, getting his master's, went out and met with Philip Eisner and did an in-depth interview with him about Event Horizon, and it's really, really great. And then we're also got a lot of features just by Tuesday Night Games. We got a couple more comics as well. We're going to do a comic set in the deep of Gradient Descent, like Tales from the Deep sort of thing. And it's written by Luke, who wrote Gradient Descent, and it's illustrated by Nick Tafani, who did Gradient Descent. So we're hoping to have, like, for the remaster of Gradient Descent later on, a few more of these Gradient Descent comics as well. We're going to do some previews of some third-party stuff. We want to talk a little bit about how to run con games. There's a lot of great stuff coming out in Mega Damage. It's an oversized magazine too, like 11 by 12.4 inches. I wanted to go like full tabloid or even bigger than that. I wanted to go huge, but this is the biggest literally that our printer could print. And we just wanted it to be a fun, like, coffee table read of just like fiction and interviews and all this sort of stuff. Does Wages have something to spend the bounty money on the off chance they can actually survive and collect one? It's not a big like gear book in terms of like tons of money, but we do encourage wardens to look at the Warden's Guide a ton and look at like getting money is not a problem, and your players should be thinking not just about ships but about hiring contractors, having a private army, going after bigger bounties, or like retiring. There's nothing cooler to me than having like a $2 million score, parking your player on a moon, being like, I bought an asteroid or whatever, I'm out, and then being like, okay, 3 years later, and then coming back to that retired character and being like, you're the only one who made it back from the deep. We need you to go again. Those kind of stories don't happen when you play the same character every day of their lives, but they do happen if you park them, if you time skip, if you move forward and you think on these like bigger scales for RPGs rather than, I love D&D, but if you get stuck in the D&D adventuring day mode, where it's like, we're going to play every day of all these characters' lives, and every day they're going to kill 8 goblins or whatever, you miss out on some of these really cool sequels that you can have with characters where you bring them back, or you say, okay, that character's done for a little while, or that character's in prison, I'm going to make a new character. And we want to see more of that.
Chromie asks if we're going to be at PAX Unplugged. We are not going to be at PAX Unplugged this December, unfortunately. I try to see if I can make things work. I'm not able to go, so I'm not there. But conventions in the future, we're still in the talks. We have a torrid history of going to cons for a long time, and Mothership was a stealth release at Origins here in Columbus, Ohio. I'm in Ohio. Sean is in Texas. But We have a strong love for conventions, and since quarantine, we haven't gone back to one ourselves. I mean, I've gone, but not representing Tuesday night games. What are your thoughts, Sean?
Yeah, I'm not going to PAX. We are both going to be at BGG this week for a little bit. Alan will be there for a bit, and we're going to have our big annual meeting there as well. COVID plus kids really knocked the convention circuit out of my head. The things I miss are the camaraderie, the energy and excitement. There's been a ton of cons where Alan and I came back and were like, we got to make this game. We got to do this. I don't miss working the booth that much, but as we've gotten older, our priorities have changed. And Mothership did amazing outside of the convention circuit too. So I think we're going to find water's going to find its own level. We're going to find our way back to cons. We're going to find good partners to partner with for booths, that kind of thing. But it's not at the top of our priority list right now. Venden, to clarify your official stance, you were having a debate with your friends today, is that collectively pitching into back five and sharing the booty amongst us is not seen as chiseling the creators. Look, pay for what you can pay for. Like, chiseling the creators is like stealing. But like, if you can't afford 5 projects, but you and 5 friends can, that's 5 projects that need the love. Like, don't feel bad about that at all. Shout out to all my Filipino followers back there and friends. Thank you so much for supporting us, Solarona. Let's see. George, you've got a third party that is loosely based on characters that are in the public domain. Would that be something that can be published? I don't know. It's not something that we would necessarily be looking for, but if it's in the public domain, we're not lawyers. So you have to determine whether like you're breaking any trademark or not. But if you're not, having something in the public domain isn't something that bothers us. Where are we at? We're coming close to the end on time. Alan, do you see any questions?
Never Throw Cat asked, what can Mothership fans do to help the month beyond just backing and joining the Tuesday night game events? What would you like the outcome of this month to be? So 2 separate questions. So first, can they help? And the second question is, what would you like the outcome to be, Sean?
So I've been describing this internally and externally as a pep rally for Mothership. This is a time for us to like celebrate games, right? So I don't want to get like the financial aspect and the commercial aspect is huge. This is going to set a lot of our budgets for the year, a lot of creators' budgets for the year. So that's not nothing. But more important than that is like we want people to play. We want to bring new players into the fold. So whether that's running a game at your library or your school or your church or your local retailer or your local convention, right? Or online or whatever, that's what we really want is we want to take this time and go like, hey, it's Mothership month. Let's go play a game. Let's break out this game. Oh, I bought this deluxe set. It took forever to get here. It's finally here. I haven't even opened it up because I was just so mad at them. Like now is the time to try it out and to try it out with your friends. That's the number one thing you can do to help us that isn't giving us money. And in some cases, it's better than giving us money, right? Alan, we found this out with Two Rooms in a Boom, didn't we? Like, how did Two Rooms in a Boom get big?
We had free print and play. We love giving games out for free. And if you have the initiative to go ahead and print it out on your own and you play it, you're sharing the love. And that's the best way to spread. I mean, if we're talking on a pure commercial aspect, that is how you make something just spread and spread and spread. It's great marketing. But more importantly than that, I think what we really sleep well with at night is that if you like the game, you're fine with the free version, that's great. But maybe just one of those people that you got to play with is like, man, I don't want to print all that out. I want the real official stuff. And that creates the itch that moves on to our third parties and all sorts of other good Mothership goodness. And so it worked with Two Rooms in a Boom, and we want that to work with all the products that we provide. You have Werewolf in the Dark free to download right now. If you have a weekend in a dark house, you can do that. Just like if you really wanted to, you could dive right into Mothership without having to spend any money.
The rules are free. The companion app's free. We even have an online tutorial that's free. It costs no money to like help this community out and to help it grow. With Two Rooms in a Boom, we found too that for every game of Two Rooms in a Boom that you played with a full player count, one person owned a copy, you had 29 potential customers in your group because it's a 30-player game, right? Every time you run a game for somebody, that's 2 to 3 to 4 potential customers for us. So very selfishly, running games is like a huge form of advertising and marketing. But it also just grows the hobby and increases the chance that somebody's going to get to play this awesome game or is going to run this game or whatever, right? So that's the number one thing you could do. If you're a creator at all, if you write blogs, if you do podcasts, right? If you're on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, like now is also the time to like not sit on that half-baked blog post and to write something up, write up a few loadouts for a prisoner class, or to write up a spaceship that's derelict that you want to explore, right? Or just to go read all of these creators. There's 21 over here, and write down your 5 recommendations and make a Reddit post, or go on to TikTok and say like these are my top 5 hidden gems for Mothership Month. Like there's a discoverability thing here going on. There's a community thing here going on. There's a lot you can do that takes time but doesn't take money. Um, and so that's the best way you can get involved with Mothership Month, besides backing or joining into events. George, as a customer in my shop, ran a game for me, and then I went and bought a deluxe box the next day, and then the following week ordered 15 modules. See, running games works. Alan, Guardian Games in Portland, one of our favorite game stores, ran a Mothership Month launch event tonight. That's how huge this kind of stuff is. Chris Air makes a great point. Mothership is great for open tables. Character creation takes 2 seconds. People die, they can leave, you can come in, you can come out. People are always getting picked up on a ship or getting dropped off for the next job. So it's really amazing. We're down to our last 3 minutes here. Alan, is there anything else you wanted to talk about the future?
Well, we didn't answer the
I would like
second
to talk
half
about
of that
Father-
question. Oh, you
Oh,
want to
sorry.
talk about Father Fog? Well, the other half of
Yeah,
the question
forget the
didn't
second half of the
answer.
question.
What is the ideal look for Mothership Month? What is your ideal outcome?
Our ideal outcome, everyone funds, everyone gets through their stretch goals. Wages of Sin does really well and signals to us that this is something we can repeat every year, doesn't wear out our customers, and that people are leaving with excitement, right? That's really what we want this to be. We want to walk out of Mothership Month excited for the future of this game. That's what we're hoping to do. That's why we're lined up so many of our announcements. Like we're going to be dropping in a soundtrack that we had commissioned. We've got updates to the Mothership app coming out, I think, on the 12th. I'll check with, oh no, today's the 12th. It'll be next Tuesday. I'll check with Andrew about the final dates for that. That's why we've saved up so many of those announcements for this week. We want to tidy up a lot of our Mothership 1E Kickstarter stretch goals. We're very close to finishing up all of those. We just hired a creative director, Adam McIver, who will be starting next week. So that's going to open up a lot more potential for us for Mothership, for Father Fog, for all sorts of stuff in the future. So we want to leave this month feeling really, really excited about the future of Mothership. That's success to me. Speaking of the future of Mothership, Alan, could you tell us a little bit about your game, Father Fog?
Jeez. Yeah, sure. I love it. It's fairy tale horror. So I'm a huge fan of grim and perilous. Mothership has that survival horror, that kind of thing. And I think the best tagline I can say is Father Fog takes place in a world where fairy tales, as you know them, could be totally true. And that is one of the most unfortunate things possible. Because some people think, oh, you mean like castles and princesses and little fairies? Like, yeah, but you're obviously not referencing the grim fairy tales that I grew up loving and reading. So imagine something very akin to Mothership, but in a totally different world with enough rules that you could dive in right away from Mothership into a Father Fog campaign and feel right at home, but with enough differences that it could also feel like a wholly unique experience. I play it a
Talk to me about
lot.
the hope system.
Okay, so in Mothership, you gain stress. In Father Fog, you lose hope. And a lot of this has to do with the fact, without any criticizing of the Mothership mechanics, that in Mothership, you have to kind of pivot the mechanics, that the panic system is different than a regular skill check or a save. Well, in Father Fog, the hope is done just like everything else. So as you lose hope, you want to roll less than your hope in order to pass that hope versus despair. But if you roll over your hope, then you have despaired. So you can already see the parallels to Mothership and the stress system versus the Father Fog and the hope system. There's just like some slight tweaks here and there that have radically different implications. And the name Father Fog itself comes from the presence of this thick fog. So almost think of the movie The Mist, but in fairy tale times. And this has strangled the world. And so now nobody wants to leave their village. And that fog is the physical embodiment of despair. But we've already gone over time, Sean. I'm sorry to just tease and drop Father Fog like that, but we can talk about that so much more. I appreciate you asking.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you
I love
all.
these comments.
We got to get off. We got to get off the air here. Our stream team has to go to bed. They're sleepy. So we will talk to you all later. Thank you for such an amazing launch day. We're sitting at $376,000 for Mothership Month as a whole. And we are looking for Wages of Sin right now at $142,000. This is an amazing first day. We've got a lot more to come. Thank you all so much. I'm going to end the stream right now.
Bye, Sean.